Welcome to Eagle News. Hello, I'm Drew.
I'm Coven.
And I'm Trevor.
We're so glad you could join us today. In today's episode, we will report about Eversole Run Middle School news, national news, Ohio news, teacher focus, science news, riddles, technology news, and so much more.
In U.S. news, California's shinhook salmon are disappearing each spring. The fish swim up creeks in California's Central Valley. There they reach cold waters where they spawn or lay eggs. Then they die, completing their life cycle. A life cycle is all the changes that happen to a living thing during its lifetime. The salmon have done this for hundreds of years. However, this is now changing. The creek is simply too warm. It is 10 degrees warmer than average. In some parts, this is due to high temperatures in the area and because of drought. The water levels in the creek are too low. Every year, salmon return to the same waters to spawn as their ancestors, but some cannot because of low waters. Drought makes this worse. Also, nearly every river or creek in the central has a dam. On the Sacramento River, the Shangsta Dam cuts off salmon from the cooler lakes and rivers farther north. To solve the problem, the government has built fish ladders and elevators to help fish get over the dams, but shinhook population continues to get smaller. A long-term plan to help them now is being discussed. The plan is to reintroduce the shinhook to their parts of the Sacramento River above the dam, but this is expensive and risky given the salmon already are threatened by population.
In world news, the ingenuity of a Boy Scout from Hawaii helped save a couple and their injured dog after they got lost on a hiking trail in Oahu. Amy and JD were hiking the Wa'amu Trail with their pit bull Smokey when they took a wrong turn. The couple ended up on a different trail, which is longer and more difficult. They did not have any cell phone service and did not have enough food or water. Things got even worse when Smokey injured his paws and was having a hard time walking. Luckily for the couple, 12-year-old David King and his mom Christine happened to be hiking on the same trail. David and his mom could see the couple was in distress and asked if they needed any help. We asked, "Oh, do you need any help?" They said. Yeah, they showed us the dog's paws had some cuts on it. When the dog would walk, it would just be really painful. JD was trying to carry Smokey on his back but was struggling because of the dog's weight. David suggested building a stretcher so that they could carry Smokey through the woods. He found a big tree branch and broke it in half, and then fed the two pieces through the armholes of his t-shirt. His idea was to make a stretcher. We did not think it would work because didn't think the dog would get into the stretcher. Smokey was just very happy to get on the stretcher. Then they just carried him out. Eventually, they made it out of the woods and got Smokey to a veterinarian for treatment on his injured paws.
On this day in history, on December 3rd, 1967, 53-year-old Lois Shakinski receives the first human heart transplant at Score Hospital in Cape Town, South Africa.
In National Day calendar news, today is National Roof Over Your Head Day and Long Earned Dog Day.
Fun facts of the day. What do Miss Piggy and Yoda have in common? They were both voiced by the same person, puppeteer Frank Oz. For this week's weekly riddle, what am I? Discovered in Africa, I spread like a tide to become a hospitable known the world wide. Necessity to some, a treasure to many. I'm best enjoyed among pleasant company. Some like me hot and some like me cold. Some prefer mild, only bold. Some take me straight, while some savor my essence, which has a added flavor. So put down your cares and sit a while with me. I'll send you back refreshed and full of energy. The answer is coffee.
Today in science news, what are elements? An element is a substance that cannot be broken down into any other substances. There is about 100 elements, each with its own type of atom. Everything in the universe contains the atom of at least one or more elements. The periodic table lists all the known elements, grouping together those are similar properties. Most elements are metal, which are shiny and conduct electricity well. Metals include gold, aluminum, and iron, which are solid at room temperature. Mercury is only metal that liquid at temperature. Some elements are not metals. Most nonmetals are gases at room temperature and do not conduct electricity. Non-metal elements with these properties include oxygen, hydrogen, and chlorine. A non-few metal substances as carbon and sulfur are in the solid state at room temperature.
In math news, what are cube roots? When we think about the word cube and root, the first picture that might come to our mind is a literal cube and the root of a tree, isn't it? Well, the idea is similar. Root means the primary source of origin, so we just need to think a cube of which a number should be taken to get the number you're given. In mathematics, the definition of cube root is written as cube root is the number that needs to be multiplied 3 times to get the original number. A perfect cube is the integer that can be expressed as the product of 3 samples or equal integers. For example, 125 is a perfect cube because 5 cubed equals 5 times 5 times 5 equals 125. However, 121 is not a perfect cube because there's no perfect number which, when multiplied 3 times, gives the product of 121. In other words, a perfect cube is a number whose cube root is integer. I'm Drew, and this is this weekend's weather. First off, on Friday we have a high of 50 degrees and a low of 37 degrees with a 20% chance of rain. On Saturday, we have a high of 47 degrees and a low of 30 degrees with a 20% chance of rain. And on Sunday, we have a high of 41 degrees and a low of 33 degrees with a 10% chance of rain. That's this weekend's weather. Have a great weekend.
What was the Dust Bowl? The Dust Bowl was an area in the Midwest that suffered from drought during the 1930s and the Great Depression. The soil became so dry that it turned to dust. Farmers could no longer grow crops as the land turned into a desert. Areas of Kansas, Colorado, Oklahoma, Texas, and New Mexico were all part of the Dust Bowl. How did it get so dusty? A number of factors contributed to the Dust Bowl. The first was a terrible drought, lack of rain, the last for so many years. With so little rain, the soil dried out. Also, much of the region had been plowed by farmers to grow wheat to graze cattle. The wheat did not anchor the soil or help hold moisture. After years of abuse, the topsoil was destroyed and turned into dust. The federal government implemented programs to help the farmers to stay in the Dust Bowl. They taught farmers proper farming practices to help prevent the soil. They also purchased some land to let it regenerate in order to prevent future dust storms. It took some time, but much of the land recovered by the early 1940s.
In health news, what is immunity? Immunity to a disease is achieved through the presence of antibodies to that disease in a person's system. Antibodies are proteins produced by the body to neutralize or destroy toxins or disease-carrying organisms. Antibodies are diseases specific. For example, measles antibody will protect a person who is exposed to measles disease, but will have an effect if he or she is exposed to mumps. Active immunity results when exposure to a disease organism triggers the immune system to produce antibodies to that disease. Active immunity can be acquired through natural immunity or vaccine-included immunity. Passive immunity is provided when a person is given antibodies to a disease rather than producing them through his or her own immunity system.
In social and emotional news, why is listening important? Listening isn't just about staying quiet, it means really absorbing what someone else is saying. Listening also is a critical component of a healthy communication. After all, much of the learning in school depends on the child's ability to listen to what the teacher is saying. Absorbing the material, taking notes, and thinking about what is being said becomes even more important as your child advances academically. Giving your child plenty of opportunities to practice listening can strengthen this skill. It's essential that your child grows up knowing how to listen.
The inspirational quote of the day: be strong. You never know who you are inspiring. I think this means always to try to do your best because others will try to emulate you.
This is this week's Eagle Recognition Award winners. Alex Golden, for being service-minded and having respect, by Mr. Crowley.
Emma Hayward, for ownership, by Miss Savage.
Tavon Fluid, for service-minded, by Mrs. Mathis.
Silas Brenning, for ownership, by Mr. Armstrong.
Adhita Carl, for ownership and acceptance, by Mr. Simmons.
Prisha Shaw, for acceptance, by Mrs. Phelps.
That was this week's Eagle Recognition Award winners. Well, that's the Eagle News for today. If you have a story you would like to have featured on Eagle News, please let Mr. McNeil know. Here at Eversole, we are creating a community of excellence by being positive, working hard, and respecting the uniqueness of ourselves and each other. Have an amazing day.